Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. And Smackdown tonight was from the Target Center in Minneapolis. And Smackdown tonight, I thought it was a decent show, in my opinion. Wasn't a great show, but decent. But on the show tonight, we had Rey Mysterio versus Jimmy Uso, which the Mysterios, Rey and Dominic, are in this little feud with the Usos. We had a six-man tag, Big E, Cesaro, and Nakamura versus Dolph Ziggler, Roode, and Apollo Crews. You know, it's the same old. And then I don't know why they booked this on the show tonight. This did not need to be on SmackDown tonight. And we saw Reginald. Yes, Reginald. The jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 champion, which they end up calling him Reggie tonight, and he ended up facing Chad Gable, and the title was on the line. So you mean to tell me that you had nothing for Toni Storm? Where was Toni Storm tonight? She made her debut last week, and now this week, they don't book her in anything. Hell, where's Shotzi Blackheart? Where's Tegan Knox? Why weren't these women on the show tonight? They're like, oh yeah, we got nothing for Tegan Knox, Shotzi Blackheart, and Toni Storm. We're not going to book them on the show tonight, but yet we're going to give you all Reginald. Because Reginald is so fucking entertaining. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's like the stench from Reginald with the 24/7 title on Monday Night Raw lingered all the way through the week, and the stench came back tonight. And it was a bad stench. Unbelievable. But at least we had a return tonight, which I will get to. But before I start the review, guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier today. Did my review of Jungle Cruise, which I saw earlier today. So definitely check out my review of Jungle Cruise if you guys haven't seen it. But it was a good movie. It was very fun. It was a fun adventure film. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Emily Blunt, they did a good job in the film. So check out my review of Jungle Cruise if you guys haven't seen it. And I would recommend the film also. But let's jump right into the review. SmackDown opened up tonight with John Cena. John Cena came out, got a big pop from the Minneapolis crowd. Cena ended up rushing to the ring. Greg Hamilton ended up doing his introduction. We saw a video package of Cena, return, and he was taking some shots at Roman Reigns, challenging him to a match at SummerSlam. It also showed how Reigns last week ended up denying Cena's challenge, but he ended up accepting the challenge that was issued by Finn Balor. So after the video package was over, Cena ended up calling it an interesting video. And he was saying, keep a person in your life if they can make missionary position interesting for 2 decades, because he was referring to Reigns' comment on missionary position. So Cena ended up getting the crowd hyped up. He ended up saying that tonight Reigns will sign a contract, a SummerSlam contract with Finn Balor. Cena ended up saying that that's only half bad, and that he gives respect to Finn Balor. But he ended up saying that it only proves his point that Roman absolutely sucks. So Cena ended up saying that he has no problem with rejection. He ended up saying that he's been rejected in front of the world, and we were there, and that it wasn't pretty. So Cena was, of course, referencing his former girlfriend, Nikki Bella. So Cena ended up saying that Reigns rejected him because he returned with the same look and music, among other things. So he ended up saying that that is so stupid. That's like asking Stone Cold Steve Austin to come back, to Sasquatch Steve Houston, or The Rock coming back to the company as Dwayne Too Small Johnson. So Cena was like, oh, that's ridiculous. It's not who those guys are. They believe who they are, and so do the fans. So Cena ended up saying that Reigns has to change every 2 years because fans stop caring about him, because they don't believe in him, and that Reigns doesn't believe in himself. He wants to say that Reigns is nothing more than a lazy stooge named Joe, who coasts by on every gimmick in the system. Cena was ripping on Reigns, saying that he's afraid to fail. He wants to say that he would have embarrassed Reigns at SummerSlam, and that he knows it. So Cena ended up saying that Reigns didn't reject him because of how he looks, but because of how he would have made him look, how Cena would have made Reigns look. So then Baron Corbin ended up coming out. Baron Corbin was still wearing the same white shirt from last week with ketchup, with like a ketchup stain on the side of his shirt, or it must have been like pizza sauce, so whatever it is. So Corbin ended up coming out. He ended up saying that he wants to talk. Fans were chanting, "You suck" to Corbin. Cena ended up saying that he has no idea who he is. He was like, oh, well, they're saying you suck, but I don't know who you are. So Cena ended up recognizing Corbin. So he ended up saying that Corbin looks horrible. Corbin ended up saying that he's in a bad way. So Cena agreeing with Corbin that he looks horrible. Corbin ended up saying that he and Cena have never been close, but he is desperate, and desperate men do desperate things. Corbin went on to say that his life is falling apart. He's lost everything. He lost his crown, his car, his house. He ended up saying that someone stole his identity and that his credit is trash. He ended up saying last week he suffered an injury to a very sensitive part of his body. And now he's unable to go on the internet. So Cena ended up asking, oh, eat breakfast cereal? And Corbin ended up saying that he's unable to perform. So then Cena was joking about exactly how Corbin is unable to perform. And Corbin ended up saying that because of what happened, his wife left and took the kids. Corbin ended up saying that he saw Cena out here, the man who grants so many wishes. He ended up saying that he wondered if Cena can help him. So Cena then asked the Minneapolis crowd if he should help Corbin. So fans were booing the hell out of that. So Cena ended up asking for a definitive answer, but the fans were still booing. So Cena ended up giving Corbin money. Corbin was like, oh, this is it? So Corbin was being ungrateful. Corbin ended up saying that it doesn't have to be money and that he will work for it. He ended up asking Cena to put him in the Suicide Squad. So Cena was like, oh, well, we already finished the Suicide Squad, which he ended up plugging, saying that the movie comes out next Friday, which, it is, and I am looking forward to the film. But Corbin ended up asking about a sequel to the Suicide Squad, and that he wants to be Cena's stunt double. Well, Cena ended up saying that, oh, that's a bit of a reach. So Corbin then ended up asking if Cena is going to kick a poor man while he's down. He ended up saying that Cena really is a selfish, self-absorbed, tight wad with an ego the size of California. So he then ended up calling Cena a Hollywood sellout. Cena ended up saying that he will help Corbin with something he desperately needs: an attitude adjustment. So Cena then scooped Corbin up, ended up hitting the AA to Corbin, and that was that. That was how the segment ended. But overall, it's John Cena. He never fails to deliver a good promo or good segment in the ring. But nobody cares about Baron Corbin. The WWE wants us to get behind Baron Corbin and feel sorry for him, and they're making him a babyface. Nobody's gonna get behind Baron Corbin. Nobody. So WWE, stop trying to make the fans believe in Baron Corbin. It's not gonna work. It's gonna fail. Nobody wants to see Corbin on TV. So then we saw Rey Mysterio backstage. Dominic ended up approaching him. He ended up telling Rey that he will keep his eye on Jay, while Rey ends up facing Jimmy. So Rey would end up saying that he's proud of the competitor Dominic has become. He ended up saying that Dominic needs to step his game up and not make rookie mistakes so that they can win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship back. So Rey ended up telling Dominic to watch him tonight. So that was basically that. So then we had Jimmy Uso versus Rey Mysterio. This was a decent match here. So we had the Usos end up coming out first, and then out came the Mysterios. Match ended up starting. Jimmy and Rey end up going at it. Jimmy ended up dropping Rey to start it off. He was talking some trash to Rey. Jimmy ended up delivering a kick to Rey's gut. Rey delivered a head scissors takedown to Jimmy, which got a pop from the crowd. Rey ended up mounting Jimmy in the corner with some right hands. And then he delivered a bulldog from the corner to Jimmy. Went for the cover, which Jimmy ended up kicking out too. Jimmy then ended up scooping Rey on his shoulders, drived him spine first into the turnbuckles. And then he went for the cover, which Rey kicked out at too. Jimmy then ended up grounding Rey, but he ended up fighting out of it. Rey ended up dumping Jimmy over the top rope out to the floor. He ended up sending Jimmy face first into the ring apron. Rey ended up charging at Jimmy, but Jimmy ended up countering. He ended up hitting a super kick to Rey. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Rey took control of the match. He ended up landing a kick to Jimmy's mouth. And Rey ended up fighting from the apron. Jimmy ended up nailing a enziguri to Rey, which Rey ended up going down on the edge of the apron. Jimmy then ended up heading up to the second turnbuckle. He ended up pulling Rey up for a superplex. Rey ended up blocking it, and he ended up headbutting Jimmy. Rey then ended up headbutting Jimmy down to the mat. Rey delivered a flying senton to Jimmy. He ended up running the ropes, hit a springboard crossbody, went for the cover, which Jimmy ended up kicking out at too. So at the end of the match, we had Rey end up blocking the Samoan drop. He ended up taking Jimmy down into a crucifix pin. So Dominic ended up helping his father win the match. So Dominic ended up putting his feet on his father's back to reinforce the pin. So Rey ended up holding it. And there you go. Rey Mysterio ended up winning the match thanks to Dominic, thanks to his son. So, but overall, it was a decent match. So then we had Bianca Belair end up coming out. So Bianca Belair made her way out. We saw how Bianca ended up retaining her title over Carmella last week, which was at the Rolling Loud festival, which that crowd did not react to anything that was happening in two of the matches that were done at the festival. So SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, Kayla Braxton was in the ring with Bianca. They had a ring cover in the ring. It was red. Kayla Braxton ended up congratulating Bianca on her hitting 110 days as her being the SmackDown Women's Champion. She ended up asking Bianca how she sees the next 100 days, pan out. So Bianca then ended up thanking Kayla Braxton. She ended up saying that these past few months have been amazing by defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Carmella at the Rolling Loud Festival last week. How she won an SB main event in WrestleMania with Sasha Banks. And also being back in front of fans. She ended up saying that it just keeps getting better. And she doesn't know how she's going to top it. And that she's grateful. So then we got Carmella coming out. Carmella came out. Carmella was mocking Bianca on her 100 days as SmackDown Women's Champion and congratulating her. Carmella ended up saying that if Bianca really wants to cement her legacy, she should give one more title shot to someone who has held the title for 130 days. Someone also known as the most beautiful woman in WWE. No, Carmella. You should not get one more shot at the SmackDown Women's Championship. You had your chance in 2 matches. You lost them both. So get to the back of the line. So Carmella then ended up making excuses for her loss at Rolling Loud last week. You lost fair and square, Carmella. So then out came Zelina Vega. Sell out Vega. So she ended up saying that Carmella better slow her roll because we all know Carmella is too pretty to be a third-time loser. So Zelina ended up saying that what she wants to say to Bianca, she will say it in her face. So Zelina got into the ring. Zelina Vega ended up thinking that the fans want to see Bianca challenge a rising star like her. Really? Really? A rising star, Zelina? You think you're going to be a rising star? No. No. Look at the matches that you had when you came back. Lost them. Go to catering, Zelina. Give me a break. Rising star. So Zelina Vega ended up saying that she is the moment, and no one is more deserving than her. What did you do to say that you're the moment, and nothing's more deserving than you? What did you do to earn a possible shot in facing Bianca for the SmackDown Women's Championship? Nothing. Nothing. But losing matches. So Zelina Vega ended up telling Bianca to accept her challenge, which Bianca did. So Carmella then ended up shoving Bianca down from behind. She ended up cheap-shotting Bianca. Zelina Vega and Carmella ended up double-teaming on Bianca. And then we had the return of Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks got a huge pop from the crowd. Sasha Banks hasn't been on TV since WrestleMania. So she ended up rushing out to the ring. She ended up taking out Carmella and then Zelina Vega. She delivered the double running knees to Carmella in the corner. Sasha Banks ended up helping Bianca up to her feet, ended up hugging Bianca. Sasha ended up raising Bianca's arm in the air as Bianca ended up looking confused. And I was confused about, what I saw here. I'm like, they just had a match at WrestleMania where the SmackDown Women's Championship was on the line. And all of a sudden, Sasha comes back and her and Bianca are now friends? Didn't make any sense here. But we got our answer later on in the night, at the end of the main event. So that was how the segment ended. So, but overall, this was just a very meh segment, in my opinion. So then we had Reginald backstage with Kayla Braxton. So Reginald ended up telling Kayla Braxton that he wants her to call him Reggie instead of Reginald. So Reggie talks about how he'd do anything to get to the company, whether it was to help Carmella or Sasha Banks or Nia Jax. He ended up saying that he's looking forward to defending the garbage 24/7 title. And he ended up saying that he always has to be ready for any opponent at any time. He ended up saying that he's always looking over his shoulder and even has a rear view mirror on his shopping cart. What? Who's writing this? So Reggie's ended up saying that his head stays on his swivel and that's second nature. He ended up saying anyone who challenges him should expect the unexpected. And during all this, it was funny. There was a crew member that walked into the camera shot while Reginald was still talking, and that was that. But I'm like, oh, Reggie said that he has a rearview mirror on his shopping cart. I'm like, who the fuck in creative is writing this shit? Why is Reginald on the show tonight? Did we need him? So Reginald ended up coming out, did his Cirque du Soleil flips. That's all that Reginald is good for, is flips. Can't wrestle. So Otis and Chad Gable end up coming out. So it's Chad Gable versus Reginald for the jobber garbage Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. This was a waste of a match. This was a complete waste of time. Match started. Chad Gable and Reginald end up going at it. Chad Gable was dominating. Chad Gable delivered a suplex and a bridge to Reginald for a close 2 count. So Reginald was just using his flips to get away from Chad Gable, to avoid strikes from Chad Gable. Chad Gable ended up dropping Reginald, delivered another suplex for a close 2 count. So at the end of the match, Reginald kept control, started flipping onto Chad Gable with a senton. Otis then came into the ring and caused a disqualification. So Reginald wins the match by disqualification. Post-match, Reginald started flipping, doing a Cirque du Soleil flips up the stage. That was that. Complete waste of time, this match was. This did not need to be on the show tonight. So then we saw Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville ended up approaching Adam Pearce backstage. She ended up confirming the women's match later on tonight, which was the main event. Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair versus Carmella and Zelina Vega. Women's tag team match. So that was that. And then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had the contract signing for Roman Reigns and Finn Balor for SummerSlam. So Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce, they end up talking about the unpredictability of these signings, and that they are here to make sure the contract is signed, sealed, and delivered. So they end up introducing Finn Balor. Balor ended up coming out first. Balor got a pop from the Minneapolis crowd. So Balor was in the ring. Adam Pearce ended up introducing Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion. So Roman Reigns ended up coming out along with Paul Heyman. Reigns ended up stopping at the entrance. He ended up looking out at the crowd. Paul Heyman then handed Reigns the Universal Championship. Reigns ended up raising it in the air. Of course, got pyro. So Balor was watching from the ring. Reigns ended up laughing at like fans that were dressed and impersonating John Cena in the front row, which we saw. So Reigns ended up coming into the ring, raised the Universal Championship again, got more pyro. Paul Heyman ended up taking one of the chairs. He ended up telling Adam Pearce to excuse him. He then positioned the chair at the head of the table for Roman to sit down in it. So Adam Pearce ended up telling both Reigns and Balor to feel free to look at the contract and then sign on the dotted line. So Reigns ended up saying that we've already seen Mr. Missionary tonight because the fans were chanting for Cena. So Reigns ended up asking Finn Balor if he caught Cena's promo. Reigns ended up explaining how Cena thinks Balor is a lesser man than him because he said Reigns is ducking him by accepting his challenge, by accepting Balor's challenge. Reigns ended up saying that he doesn't agree and that he thinks Finn Balor is worthy to challenge for the Universal Championship and worthy to catch the beatdown at SummerSlam. So Reigns was like, for the record, he doesn't think Balor is anything like Cena. He kept saying that he sees Balor doesn't have this tired shtick like Cena, and that he sees Balor is hungry, and that he likes that of Balor. So Reigns ended up saying to Balor that if he signs the contract, he has to smash him and send him right back to NXT. So we're getting NXT saying on SmackDown tonight. I thought Vince doesn't like NXT or doesn't want anything to do with NXT. He brings up the NXT talent just to bury some of them. So now they want to mention NXT. So Reigns ended up putting the mic down. He ended up signing the contract. Balor ended up saying that Reigns must think pretty highly of himself, and justably so. He kept saying that it will be his privilege to return to NXT once again as the Universal Champion. So Balor ended up putting his mic down. He ended up going to sign the contract. And then all of a sudden, Baron Corbin ended up attacking Balor from behind. He ended up slamming Balor's head into the table, and he tossed the contract. So Corbin ended up destroying Finn Balor, ended up taking Balor to ringside. He was beating Balor down against the announce table. Corbin then ended up bringing the contract back into the ring, and Reigns was looking at Corbin, and Reigns was amused at what Corbin did. So Corbin was about to sign the contract. Cena ended up rushing into the ring. Cena then ended up sending Corbin into the ring post. Cena then picked up the contract. Cena looked over the contract. Reigns was seated now as he was watching Cena. Cena then grabbed a marker and he signed his name to the contract. So Cena ended up showing the camera how he signed the contract, which makes the match official with Roman Reigns for SummerSlam. So we officially got Roman Reigns versus John Cena at SummerSlam. So that was how the segment ended. But overall, this was a decent segment here. But them using Finn Balor just for this was a waste. Because Balor last week was like, oh, yeah, I want to face you, Roman. So they get to this week. They have this contract signing. And Balor gets attacked by Corbin. So putting Balor in this little thing from last week and now this week, it was a complete waste for him. But I guess because of this, we're going to be seeing possibly Balor versus Corbin at SummerSlam. So at least we got John Cena versus Roman Reigns for SummerSlam, which we all want to see. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Paul Heyman ended up stopping Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville backstage. He ended up congratulating the both of them, saying what just happened was good TV right there. He ended up asking the both of them what they're going to do about SummerSlam. Paul Heyman ended up pointing out to both Pierce and Sonya Deville how Balor's name is on the contract and that Cena ended up signing it. So it's not legal and binding. Pierce then ended up pointing to the contract and he ended up saying that he sees Cena's signature and Roman's signature. So that's good enough for him. So Sonya Deville ended up saying it's going to be Cena versus Reigns for the Universal Championship at SummerSlam. And that's official. And Paul Heyman wasn't happy about that. So that was that. But good. We got our match. We got the match at SummerSlam with Cena and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And then we went to a 6-man tag. Cesaro, Big E, and Nakamura versus Robert Roode, Dolph Ziggler, and Apollo Crews. This was a okay 6-man tag here. Big E ended up coming out first, and Cesaro also came out. Rick Boogs then ended up appearing at the entrance. Of course, he was doing his introduction for Nakamura. Fans end up popping to Nakamura's music as he ended up coming out. So Apollo Crews and Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler were waiting in the ring. Commander Aziz was at ringside. Big E ended up starting off the match with Apollo Crews. He ended up launching Apollo with an overhead throw. Big E ended up running into a knee from Apollo Crews. Crews then sent Big E out to the floor. Cesaro ended up coming in. He was having a few words with Apollo Crews, which distracted the referee. And it allowed Roode and Ziggler to hit a spinebuster and a zigzag combo on Big E on the outside of the ring. So SmackDown went to commercial. And then when SmackDown came back, Cesaro ended up dropping Dolph Ziggler for a 2 count. Cesaro delivered the Cesaro swing to Dolph. And Cesaro then applied the sharpshooter to Ziggler. And Roode ended up helping him. Cesaro then dropped Roode out to the floor. Nakamura ended up coming in. And him and Cesaro did a double team on Ziggler. So Nakamura ended up going for the cover, which Ziggler ended up kicking out. So Nakamura was ready to go for the Kinshasa to Ziggler. Ziggler ended up dodging the Kinshasa, ended up dropping Nakamura with the zigzag. Dolph ended up taking in Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews delivered the standing moonsault to Nakamura, went for the cover. Nakamura ended up kicking out at 2 as Cesaro ended up making the save. And there was a point later on in the match where Apollo Crews ended up taking out Nakamura and delivered a suplex. And we had Nakamura end up kicking out at 2. Apollo Crews ended up going up to the top. And Rick Boogs ended up playing his guitar at ringside. So Commander Aziz ended up sending Rick Boogs into the announce table. And Cesaro ended up coming out of nowhere and leveled Commander Aziz with a running uppercut, which Aziz ended up almost going over the barricade. And then Dolph ended up delivering a super kick to Cesaro at ringside. Apollo Crews then missed the moonsault from the top onto Nakamura. Nakamura then came back and delivered the Kinshasa to Apollo Crews. And he went for the cover. And there you go. Nakamura, Cesaro, and Big E end up winning the match. And Apollo Crews, the Intercontinental Champion, taking a pin. I don't know what WWE is doing. Why are they having some of their champions getting pinned? I don't understand. Why are the champions getting pinned? Stupid. It's stupid on their part. You should not have the champions get pinned all the time. It's ridiculous. But overall, it was an okay 6-man tag. So then we saw a video package of Seth Rollins and Edge. So Edge ended up coming out to a pop from the crowd. He was getting hyped up. SmackDown then went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Seth Rollins was in the ring. And they showed what happened during the commercial. Edge was making his way down the ramp. Rollins ended up attacking Edge from behind on the ramp. Seth Rollins ended up taking out Edge on the stage. And Rollins ended up taking a camera. And he ended up hitting Edge with the camera. And then Michael Cole ended up saying Edge was helped to the back after he got attacked by Seth Rollins, and how Rollins ended up hitting him with the camera. So Rollins then ended up getting on the mic, tells the fans to shut up. He starts ranting about how what goes on around comes around. And he ended up saying how Edge has done nothing but take from him. Rollins ended up calling it a revolution. And he claims that he is a revolutionary. So Rollins then ended up showing us a video package of, events that led to where, he and Edge are. So we saw that. Rollins ended up saying that he is not ashamed. That was a hard thing to do. Fans were chanting, "We want Becky," of course, because it's Seth Rollins' wife. Rollins ended up saying that he is the rightful heir to the Universal Championship, and that if he can't be champion, neither can Edge. And then Rollins ended up laughing, tossed the mic, and that was that. So then we had the main event. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks versus Carmella and Zelina Vega. This was just a meh main event tonight. We had Bianca Belair end up making her way out. Carmella and Zelina Vega were already in the ring. And out came Sasha. And the match ended up starting. Bianca ended up drop kicking Carmella. Bianca then ended up hitting Carmella into the corner. She tagged in Sasha. Her and Bianca ended up double teaming on Carmella. Sasha ended up going for a quick count. Carmella then turned around and covered Sasha for a 2 count. So Zelina Vega ended up coming in. Sasha and Bianca ended up doing double drop kicks to Carmella and Zelina Vega. They then delivered baseball slides to both of them. Sasha ended up standing on the ring steps, allowing her to press. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Zelina Vega was in control of the match. She was beating up on Bianca. Zelina Vega ended up doing a submission to Bianca in the middle of the ring. Bianca ended up getting out of it. Zelina Vega ended up sending Bianca into the turnbuckles. Carmella then came in, and she was taunting Sasha. Bianca ended up getting an opening, but Zelina Vega ended up coming in to stop Bianca from tagging Sasha. And we had later on Sasha ended up doing the Three Amigos, of course, tribute to Eddie Guerrero. Sasha ended up going up to the top, delivered the frog splash to Zelina Vega, and she went for the cover. Carmella ended up breaking up the pin. She delivered a kick to Sasha's face. So we had Sasha end up win the match for her and Bianca, where Sasha ended up countering a facebuster by Carmella. Sasha ended up catching her in the backstabber and then turned it into the bank statement. Carmella ended up tapping out. So there you go. Sasha and Bianca ended up winning the match. Post-match, Sasha and Bianca were celebrating in the ring. And Sasha ended up dropping Bianca with the backstabber. So fans end up enjoying that. Sasha ended up grabbing the SmackDown Women's Championship, dropped it to mount Bianca with right hands. So Sasha ended up shoving the title in Bianca's face. She was talking trash to Bianca. Sasha then ended up dropping Bianca with the Tornado DDT, and she ended up applying the bank statement, and Bianca was screaming out. The referee was trying to break the bank statement. So Sasha ended up standing tall, and Sasha ended up raising the SmackDown Women's Championship. And Sasha then applied the bank statement again on Bianca. She was yelling at Bianca, ragdolling her. She was ranting about how Bianca is only here because of her. So Bianca was screaming, tapping out, as Sasha still kept the bank statement locked in on her. And that was how SmackDown went off the air. So Sasha turns heel, which was the right thing to do. You know, earlier in the night, Sasha comes in and her and Bianca hug. Like, I'm like, they just had a match at WrestleMania, and Bianca ended up winning the match. So Sasha comes back, and all of a sudden they're friends. That was my reaction in the middle of the night. I'm like, what? And then at the end of the show, I'm like, okay. I saw what they did there. So it looks like we're going to be having Sasha versus Bianca for the title again at SummerSlam. And, Sasha, she didn't compete, after WrestleMania because I guess she didn't want to compete in Thunderdome shows. When they were in the Thunderdome, they ended up keeping Sasha off TV for all these months, and they wanted to bring her back when fans came back in attendance, which that was the right move. So, yeah, Sasha ended up turning heel. So that was how SmackDown went off the air. So anyways, that's it for the SmackDown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my movie review of Jungle Cruise if you guys haven't checked it out yet. Review is on my channel. So, till next video, I'll see you all later.